Matt Thompson, city engineer, can you hear us? Matt, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Okay. Yes, I
Thank you. I was told to check in with you. Thank you.
can hear you now.
Thank you.
Ready? Are we ready?
Oh, sure.
I call to order Orville Planning Commission meeting for January 28, 2021. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioners, this is a reminder, the push button on your mics will turn them on for roll call.
I can't hear.
Commissioner Flicker? Here. Commissioner Britton?
Here.
Commissioner Aris?
Here.
Commissioner Holland? Here. Commissioner Sheard?
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Here.
Chairperson Durling?
Here. And will you rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Begin.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anybody that wants to address the commission on non-agenda items?
Mr. Chairperson, I will ask the Zoom meeting. I'm going to read a paragraph that explains how the public can comment on this meeting.
Okay.
Public members, to comment on this meeting, you will need to use the raise your hand function in Zoom. For those accessing the meeting from a computer or a smartphone, the raise your hand feature can be selected by clicking or tapping the raise your hand feature. For members of the public utilizing a telephone by audio only, you can use the raise your hand feature when an item for which you desire to speak on is brought up by pressing *9 on your keypad to raise your hand. When it's your turn to speak, the clerk will call on you to speak. Are there any public members that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Mr. Chairperson, it does not look like there are any speakers for non-agenda items.
Okay. The next item is the consent calendar approval of the minutes. So everybody had an opportunity to review them, and is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2020.
And December 3rd also. December 3rd and 17th.
And December 3rd.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call. Oh, that's right. We're doing this again.
Glenn, you gotta look at
Anyone
your screen.
want to change their vote?
There you go.
Motion carries with 7 yeses and 0 noes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public hearings procedure, I'll open the public hearing. Staff presents answers and questions from to and from the Planning Commission. The hearing is open for public comment, limited to 2 minutes per speaker. In the event more than 10 speakers, time will be limited to 1.5 minutes. Under Government Code 54954.3, the time for each presentation may be limited. Public comment session is closed, and then the commission debates and takes action. Okay. Open the hearing on item 2, Orville Veterans Village Project. Staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Wes Irvin, City Planner. This project involves the creation of a new subdivision at the site of a former small cottage rental complex, which was taken over and demolished by the City Redevelopment Agency several years ago. So the city now owns the property. Now the city and the Veterans Development Housing Corporation, or VHDC for short, are teaming up to develop a 12-unit townhome project, which would consist of 4 3-unit, 2-story buildings. Features of the project include 2-bedroom, and I think there's 2 3-bedroom units, one at each end. The units would be available to low-income veterans only. The project will be phased in groups of 3 units at a time, 1 building at a time, starting with lots 10 through 12 on the 6th Street side and moving westward. The city will ultimately donate the land to veterans housing at the appropriate time. Because the proposed project as designed would not meet any of our existing development standards, specifically lot widths and setbacks, applicant has opted to apply for a planned development overlay, often also termed as a PUD, a more common term, which allows the project to deviate from those standards. In addition to and as part of the PDO, the project approval also requires a tentative subdivision map approval, a general plan amendment to allow the housing because it is currently zoned commercial, and a zoning code amendment, all of which in this case, because it's a planned development overlay, must be ultimately approved by the City Council upon the recommendation of this commission. The biggest issue that has arisen seems to be the project's design. We've received several comments ahead of time, which are in your packets, about the facade in the elevation drawing and how this project's design should be more in line, I'm quoting the commenters, more in line with the downtown historic overlays requirements for design and construction. The downtown historic overlays theme is turn of the century. I think it's turn of the century modern. Turn of the century theme anyway. The location of this property is a key location at the beginning of Montgomery Street, which is a gateway to downtown. Applicant has since provided a rendering of the facades as they see them, and that's the 11 by 17 color rendering that you have in front of you, and that was emailed to you this afternoon and is also shown on the screen right now. We anticipate some discussion on this matter in particular. The applicant has several attendees by Zoom. Kent Trimble and Tori Cardellino from Veterans Housing are here to answer any questions and presumably to make a short presentation. Don Russell, the principal engineer, and Keith Doglio, the civil engineer. Matt Thompson, our city engineer, is also available. He has reviewed the tentative map and provided the engineer's report that is in your packet. On September 16th, the Development Review Committee reviewed this proposed project, and along with staff, recommended approval. Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, the applicant, I was trying to find the applicants on this list. Who do you want?
Either Kent.
Would Kent or Dawn like to make a brief presentation?
This is Kent Trimble. I can make a real brief presentation for you. Thank you for hearing our application this evening. I know one of the questions was, is this rental or owner? This is an ownership project. It's fully funded by Calvet. And you may be asking why we're building in phases of 3 units at a time. The way that the Calvet loan works is we have to identify the buyers first, then Calvet fully funds the construction loan, but the buyer has to be certified, approved by Calvet, and fully qualified so that Calvet knows that once we get certificate of occupancy that the buyer is ready to go and can move in. So that's the reason for 4, I call them pods, 4 pods of 3 units each. Like Wes mentioned, we have 3-bedroom units at the east and west end of the row. The rest are 2-bedroom units. There's garages and driveways in the back. There's an alley back behind us. And we've got all the utilities on all around us. And if there's any questions about utilities, Keith, our civil engineer, can go through that. We're fully receptive to whatever architectural vernacular you want us to change to. We think Don has done a really good job of sort of where we're at now, and I know we've come a long ways, but if there's more discussion and you want us to go in a certain direction, we're more than happy to meet whatever the city would like us to do. With that, Don, do you want to go into any of the architectural specifics for us quickly?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah. So, Wes had shared some concerns from residents in the area, and we took those to heart. It's hard to picture the buildings with the 2D drawings that we showed. And so we added some detail that we thought fit the neighborhood, with some shingles into gables and some porches and basically, highlighted the entries. But from the 2D drawings, you really couldn't pick up how articulated this building really is. So at the end of every 3rd building, there is a 5-foot wide yard between the next building as well. That's going to be gated, which was requested of us. But anyway, I think the other change you'll see that we made from what was submitted at the DRC was we took the 3-bedroom units on the ends and we mirrored them so that the entry was at the corner, which helped delineate, the entry of that space as well.
I have several people that want to make comment on. I think the first up is Celia Hirschman.
If there's any members of the public, right now is the time to use the raise your hand feature.
Hi, this is Celia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for presenting. I live on Montgomery Street. I'm a long-time resident now. And I love the idea of having a veterans village where vets can buy property, and I applaud you for that. I did listen to the intro, and the architecture was to be turn of the century, but I think they were referring to a different century. Most of the houses on Montgomery are Victorian, and I think that was the intention of the original 2030 gateway or master plan. This design is very reminiscent. There's actually a set of buildings on Montgomery that are very similar to this, only with slightly different features. But this is much more reminiscent to me of low-income housing out of an urban environment. There's houses just like this in San Francisco. I don't know what that background noise is, but could someone mute them? Hello?
Give me 1 second so I can see
Is
who
this
it
it?
is.
Can you mute everybody who isn't supposed to be talking, and that'll make it easy for one person to speak. Hi. So for me, this architecture, Montgomery Street, as you're coming off the freeway, coming into Orville, is supposed to be really a grand entrance. And this virtually is the first housing piece you're going to see. And that does not represent a grand entrance. I love the project, but boy, this doesn't fit here if this is the intention. Thank you.
Any questions of Cecilia?
I don't have any questions, no.
Celia, Mike Britton, Planning Commission. Do you remember what was there?
Yes, I actually was involved in getting rid of it.
Yeah.
It was the Nets Motel.
This is a great improvement of that hotel that was there.
But that's not the standard we're living with, is it? The Meth Motel, this is better than the Meth Motel?
Absolutely.
But that's not the standard we should be applying to the entrance of the historic district.
So,
that's just my opinion, but that's my opinion.
Well, my opinion is this is much better than what was there. And
we tore it down
because
it was despicable
for the veterans.
I understand, but we tore down that building because it was despicable.
I still say this is a great idea.
I think the idea is fabulous. I totally agree. I just think the architecture needs to either meet the moment or we need a different location.
Okay.
Mr. Chairperson, that is the only public person raising their hand wishing to speak on this item. Please note, all the comments that I received prior to the meeting too were added into the packet for your review.
Okay, so no one else that's listed here wants to make a comment at this time?
No one else is requesting to speak on this item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairperson, Karen Christ is requesting to speak. Yes.
Has raised her hand.
Yes.
Karen, you're on.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I am also a homeowner on Montgomery. It's hard to articulate my feelings about the design without being insulting. Please don't take insult, but this looks like an extended stay motel. The design, it does not echo the neighborhood or reflect the neighborhood that is just maybe a block or two up from it in any way. I don't even know how to classify this style other than, as Celia said, low income housing or extended stay motel. I made a rather extensive comment that's in your packet, and I want to reinforce one thing. The Planning Commission has one chance here to really make a statement for the city, one chance to improve the appearance here. And this design is not it. Obviously they went back to the table and tried to add some things that they thought might help. I don't see why they can't go back again, because like I said, you have one chance. If we're going to do this, and I do think it's a good idea, I don't object to low income or to housing for low income vets. I don't object to that principle, but there is a reason we have this historic overlay, right? So why are we not going to commit to upholding the standards that the city itself laid out for the overlay? And this just absolutely is not it. Thank you.
Is there any questions to Karen from Planning Commissioners? Okay, do we have anyone else that wants to speak?
Mr. Chairperson, that is the last of the people raising their hand to speak on this item.
That was it? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll close the hearing then. Open it up to discussion amongst the Planning Commissioners. Okay. First on the list is Commissioner Flicker.
Hi, I have a kind of a question. In one of the letters, I noticed it quote from or at least that's what they say, it's a quote, because I'm not familiar with it. The city's own words. All of the requirements for the underlying zoning district shall apply in an overlay district unless otherwise specified in the provisions for the overlay district. If there's a conflict between the provisions for the overlay district and the provisions for the underlying zoning district, the provisions for the overlay district shall prevail. Because I know we're doing a lot of zoning changes, and when I look at the list as to all the things they have to do to change to be able to build this, are some of the historical ones going to be stronger than, I don't know how to explain it. Are these overlay districts, are we changing? Is the way it says in here, it says they shall prevail, that we really shouldn't be changing them. Is that true?
That's what the code says. Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it, is also for the the veterans housing, but I like it. But I also don't live on Montgomery Street, and I'm not familiar with. I know the houses from like 5th in this direction are old Victorian, old ones. The other direction is more single, maybe an earlier period or a newer period of homes. I don't know what to say. That was what my question was, is because we are asking to change a lot of codes, a lot of things to make it fit the mold.
Commissioners, can I offer just a piece of my own sentiment here? Is I think something that could really help this project is the color palette. I think the color palette isn't necessarily reminiscent of Victorian townhomes. When I think of a townhome, I think of the Painted Ladies in San Francisco, those beautiful historic homes, and they aren't all uniform in color. They all have their own unique character. I think if the pods could have a series of colors that kind of transition from pod to pod that make them unique standalone homes, I think that would help with this project. They do have some of the characteristics of townhomes. They aren't 100% reminiscent. It's a brand new build. But I do believe an updated color palette would greatly help this facade.
This is Kent Trimble, if I may. I'm more than happy to commit to working with city staff to do that, or to add architectural embellishments, whatever we need to do. I like the idea of the Painted Ladies look of different colors for each of those, maybe different colors, not only just the different pods, but it could be each individual townhome has its own color scheme. So I'm more than happy to work with staff as we move forward to get the palette or to get the architectural look a little bit more in line with what staff may want us to be.
If you look, this is Don Russell, if you look at your Exhibit F, that was our intent, actually.
I saw that.
And when we got the comments on the entries and porches and missing the porches and that kind of thing, we put together this rendering so that you could see the articulation of the building, but we're not tied to that. In fact, we would like to go back to the different color palettes and delineating the buildings, like say the center building between the two buildings having a different color, but we'd like to work with staff as part of the permit process on that.
Yeah, personally, I liked the other colors on the Exhibit F, but I noticed on this, and then I compare it to the picture I'm looking at on now, it does have the little porch and the little thing over the window, and even if they added maybe a little bit more, I don't know. I know, like with Victorians, sometimes they have little scrolly things. Shingles, yeah. That would be an idea. Shutters, yeah, even shutters.
Yeah, we actually do have shingles.
Scrolly things.
Yeah, but
we do have shingles at all the gables. Like and all the dark brown are actually, it's hard to tell in the rendering, but those are actually shingles.
Okay.
What about shutters on maybe the side windows and not a few units in between that have shutters on a window?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
We can add those.
That would make it more appealing to the Century. I understand that the porches, they are small, and most of the bungalows and older Century houses have bigger porches, but you're limited here.
I can be able to do that, yeah.
I don't know what you could do to change that.
Yeah, and when Tammy was talking about the major changes we're making, really what it comes down to is we're changing setback rules and lot size rules so that we can fit more units on here. And the setback is actually so we can have a 0 setback property line for the center unit, Tammy.
Okay.
The front setback and the rear setback, we're in line with the requirements, and the width of lot or depth of lot. It's the width of lot that we're changing, and it's the reason to do that is to fit more units on the site.
That's a skinny house, 20 feet. Okay. But I think I'm liking what I'm hearing from everybody else also about the look. I think it's just the front of it. It just needs to be in tune more with what's the period of that neighborhood. Whether it be color, be it more shutters, be it more, I don't know what they call them, corbels or something up there that.
I don't think the only way you're going to have more corbels is to have, instead of a gable, you have a hip.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't work with, the hip doesn't work because you'd have a valley in between the two units.
True.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, Tammy, but I think if you can dress the outside up.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, just dress it up.
Yeah.
Make it more of the time.
Correct. I'd like to see a bigger porch and maybe not a shed roof over a porch. That doesn't work for a bungalow or that Century. They just didn't do a shed roof.
Yeah, the reason for the shed roof is the same thing, keeping water on your own property, not shedding it onto the neighboring property, because these are all individual owned lots.
Understand that. You can control that with gutter and with.
Legs more than you. Come on, buddy. My picture's on the box.
Mike, when you say shed roof, are you talking about like the second one where it's just straight,
Just
not
straight,
the peak?
yeah, that's a shed roof.
Okay, so maybe we could make them all peaks.
Well, you
That'd be too
don't have
many?
to make it a peak. You could make it,
Well, whatever this is.
well, that's a gable.
Gable.
A gable, okay.
Yeah. But the shed roofs, to me, are not very appealing.
We can work with staff to change those as well. We're
So it all
pretty
comes
open
down
to
to
the
the
architectural
appearance of the
style,
front.
so whatever the neighborhood would like and whatever we can do to make it more attractive, because it is the entry into Montgomery Street.
So it just sounds like it's all coming down to appearance. Just the
Yes,
front.
yeah. And I know there's cost in this, but the changes that we would like is very minimal in construction cost.
I agree with you. Paint's cheap. And you have to paint whether it's this color or a different color. And
Well,
changing the roof, you still have to do a roof. So I agree entirely with you.
well, paint is one thing. Shutters aren't that more expensive.
Agreed.
Changing the roof line on a pop out like that doesn't really cost that much. I mean, I'm in construction, so it's not terribly cost effective.
I agree with you. So we're more than willing to work with staff and change pallets and shutters and roof line, the porch roofs, and if we can pop the porches out a little bit. I don't know how much room we have done, but maybe we make the porches a little bit bigger if we can.
And a little more appealing.
And yes.
Commissioner Sheard?
I noticed that there's someone else raising their hand. Is that?
The public hearing session has closed. It would be up to the commission if they want to allow the public to speak again. They would have to reopen the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't want to do that, I presume. It's hard for me to hear you and understand what you're saying, but.
Natalie was mentioning that there's someone else raising their hand, and I mentioned that the public hearing session has been closed. The commission would have to decide to reopen the hearing if they wanted to allow the public to speak again.
It's, how does the commission feel about that?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'd like to hear their comment.
Okay.
First off, I think I'd like to hear Natalie's first, because she had her hand, was that all you had, your hand up was just to announce them?
No, I do have something I want to say, but I'm fine waiting. Whatever order you want this to go in, if you want.
Why don't you make your comments now?
Okay.
That way we have access to that
Okay.
when we're listening to everyone else.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. I live in the historic district. I love it. Historic districts, I know, as all of you know, are by nature very fragile, and they require a tremendous amount of effort, public and private, to survive, let alone succeed. So I think Tammy brought up a really good point. We're making a lot of changes here. And because of that, when I was reading through this, and as a new commissioner, I thought, well, let's go back to what are our rules? Let's look back at the 2030 Planning Commission. People put a lot of time and effort into that. And so I studied it this week. It's our Constitution. It's supposed to be what we abide by, and changes are not to be taken lightly. So I wanted to share, because I think Oroville, especially right now, is at a tipping point. We've got people that are giving so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears to restoring and repurposing our beautiful buildings. And then on the other side, we have a tremendous amount, while I'm not against these, but we have a tremendous amount of supportive, low-income, transitional housing situations, from jailhouses to probation houses to all sorts of, there's a lot of people in need, and we have our fair share in the historic district. I would say at last count there were 30 in our little neighborhood. Some neighbors have them very close to them. So I would say, as far as a balance, I get worried that our balance might be tipping in the wrong direction. But anyway, back to what it says in the 2030 Planning Commission. And according to the general plan, it says that city planning is to encourage developments that enhance the economic vitality of our historic downtown district, which the plan also refers to as the heart of the city. The general plan states that in order to revitalize our downtown historic district and create a thriving full-service community, we need to enhance the Montgomery Street corridor as the primary gateway and entry into downtown. I talked to some residents and they remember this and they told me, yes, this is our front door, our grand entry. This is the first impression. This is by no means on the fringe of the historic district. This is one of the most important places in the historic district. The general plan also reads that we need to explore ways to attract more visitors to the downtown historic district and foster Oroville's role as a regional and statewide visitor destination. And the plan has actions in there. It says we need to do the following actions. Plan for appropriate development to stimulate high-quality commercial, retail, and restaurant establishments, and identify the gaps in the available merchandise and services and recruit experienced vendors to our district. In other words, we find developments that fit this vision. We're told in the plan to create high-quality tourist amenities such as hotels and restaurants. And it says to develop and implement a tourism strategy that will focus on all aspects of what is needed to attract more visitors to Oroville. In the general plan, this lot is zoned retail business services or commercial. I believe that was well thought out. Retail brings visitors to our community. It keeps them coming back. It provides income, the most income of any other industry that we have in the city. I am strongly opposed to changing the zoning and the general plan on this street of Montgomery for this development. I do not want to see it go to multifamily housing. I know in the beginning we would say, oh, we got rid of an ugly vacant lot, and we would, but I believe in the long run we would be missing the opportunity to fulfill the vision in our general plan, which is to enhance Montgomery, make it a gateway entry to downtown. The city spends so much money on the on-ramp, off-ramp to keep that landscaped and to beautify it. I would just love to see that commitment continue, and I am not for changing for this particular development, although I'm not opposed to this development somewhere else, just not in our gateway entrance.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, we want to open it back to another public hearing. Do I hear a motion to do so?
You just.
We have to open the hearing. So I need a motion.
Mr. Chairperson, I think you can just do it by consensus.
It has to be done, whether it's by motion or by consensus. So does everybody feel that we need to open it up?
Yes.
Okay. I reopen the public hearing.
Julie Miller.
Is she there?
Okay. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much, you guys, for letting me speak. I was fumbling with my computer and I couldn't figure out the Zoom thing, so I was panicking, but I appreciate the opportunity. I agree with everything Natalie said wholeheartedly. I have been in Oroville about 1.5 years, and I moved into a historic home on Bird Street, so I do live downtown, and I grew up in Butte County. I grew up in Chico. So for me, moving to Orville was a big step, just because, to be quite frank, Orville has a very bad reputation as far as being a lower income area in general. And I don't say that to offend. I'm just saying that from my perspective growing up in Chico. We have an opportunity right now to develop the beautiful downtown Orville further by attracting more people who are like-minded in that we want to preserve our historic district. Our historic district is so rich and so wonderful. I really had no idea until I moved here how much amazing history Orville has. And I think that we really need to work on edifying it and beautifying it and making sure it's a place that people want to come to see and experience, because Oroville is a true experience between the houses that we have and the lot home and the Chinese temple and just some of the new restaurants we're getting downtown. We have an amazing opportunity to really take advantage of the position we're in right now. And so what Natalie talked about as far as everything in that code, the municipal code, we really need to consider that strongly. Now, I think the project is wonderful. I think it's spot on. I think we need more affordable housing in Butte County. It's obscene what some of the prices are around here. So I'm for the project 100%. And if you guys pass it, my next biggest concern would just be making sure that it looks appropriate to its place. So very important. So I would love it if you guys could maybe hire a consultant to at least help you along with what they should look like to be historically appropriate for the neighborhood, just because it's a tricky business. I mean, some people think they know what a Victorian is, but really they don't. And so as far as the paint colors go and all of it, we want it to look nice. Whatever you guys end up putting there, we really want it to look like it belongs. It's so important. And thank you again so much for letting me speak, because I am passionate about our downtown, and I know there are a lot of people who really truly are. And we want to show our strength in numbers. We really want to see Orville shine. So we're committed to that, and I know you guys are too. So thanks for taking the time to listen to me.
Is there anything else, anyone else from the public that wants to make a comment?
Mr. Chairperson, that was the only person that had their hand raised.
Okay. Well, I'll reclose the public hearing and return it back to the commissioners for discussion. Jenkins?
Yes. Yes, I had a comment. I like the addition of the shake on the gables. I've drove down Montgomery Street, and many of the homes either have the horizontal lap siding or shake. There are a few that are brick, but the horizontal siding and the shake, I feel, goes with Montgomery. I would like to see individual color schemes for each unit. I believe the rendering here with the same color scheme makes it look like an apartment complex. So I really like the idea of the painted ladies. I think the shutters is a good idea. Many of the homes on Montgomery Street also have shutters. I also believe that this Veterans Project is a very good idea in that neighborhood. We have issues at Montgomery and Feather River intersection with the people that are there, and I believe 12 units worth of veterans may help clean that area up. And that's all I really have to say.
Any other commissioners wishing to speak?
I just have a quick comment. A couple people have mentioned painted ladies. The painted ladies in San Francisco are gorgeous, stunning. Yes, I don't think anyone would object to anything that looked like that. That is impossible to get with the parameter of what they need this to do, to be a low-income housing project. It's extremely expensive to do Victorian architecture, and to have the density they need to have there. I just think we need to keep that in mind. We can't take a low-income housing project and make it look like painted ladies for the same budget or the same parameters. That's an impossible thing to do.
It looks like I'm up. Anybody else?
Yep.
Okay, we have another commissioner. Who wants to make a comment.
The applicant has done a prior project, the Windsors at Veterans Village in Windsor, and it's a pretty good looking design. Is the applicant still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, do you know what project I'm speaking about?
Oh, sure. We're about 65, 70% finished with construction right now.
So those, although they're not Victorians or painted ladies, they do have a little nicer design. They are all different colors. and they have a little more, you know, gingerbread on the front.
Yep.
So I'm going to pass this to the other commissioners so they can know what I'm talking about. But I think if you maybe did a little more design similar to something like this, it's a good jumping off point for.
We have no problem working with staff on any of the ideas that anyone has said so far.
Now these are all for sale, right? Do you have a price point for these?
All for sale. We do not have a price point yet. That actually, we work with Calvet and the veteran to get to that price point.
Okay, and these are going to be only veteran. I mean, how about resale restrictions and all that?
There are. Calvet requires the original buyer to stay in it for at least 5 years. After that, there's a restriction within the conveyance of the property that we would have to work with the city to make sure that we found another veteran first. If there's no veterans available, then we could potentially sell it to someone that's non-veteran. But
treated like a BMR.
Say again, sorry.
Is it treated like a BMR?
Yeah.
On the resale?
Yeah. Calvet's pretty. They're pretty strict on their resale and how the veteran can or can't. What he can or can't do with the property.
Okay.
But it's a budget.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, before I go, is there any other commissioners that want to speak? Okay. I'm having a hard time looking at this project from two perspectives. One as just an ordinary citizen and commission member, and the other is my almost 30 years as a developer doing these kind of projects throughout Northern California, Nevada, and Utah. And my initial reaction is that it's too dense. The difficulty that we're facing here is the transition from commercial to residential. This is one of the most difficult planning issues and situations that every city faces. How do you appropriately transition from intense commercial, which is right across the street? You got commercial right across the street. Transition from commercial to residential. So that's a major concern, and a major concern of mine. The other is the whole concept of the general plan, the whole concept of the city's effort of Montgomery is to have, when you get off the freeway and come into town, is to say, wow, this is beautiful. Not to have a situation where you say, you see the first part and you go into the second part and you look back and say, well, why can't the first part be like the second part as you drive in towards the downtown? So this transition is difficult. I guess in summary, my problem is the density. If you look at what Montgomery is, the old stately homes, most sit back quite a ways, but large individual homes. My brother-in-law lived and worked at the southeast corner of 2nd and Montgomery on a very large home set back quite a ways from Montgomery for about 30 years. And I've had many conversations with him. He knew I was a developer, and we'd get into some really good discussions. He bought this property when it was the motel. He owned it. And we talked about, what could be done with it, tear it down, what could be done. Those kind of conversations I had with him kind of receded, went away because of his ill health. And so we weren't really able to get into what I wanted to get into on this property. I do know that he felt very strongly that he wanted this entryway into Orville to be as similar as possible to what you see when you get past 6th Street or 6th Avenue and going east towards City Hall. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what he felt this property should do. Mm-hmm. I have a problem, again, with the density. I like the idea, I assume when you say it's for a certain group of people, that it's going to be that. But I just, the architecture can be debated, and that's the issue. I think the architecture, if you look at it, if you go down Montgomery and look at a city block between was it 1st and 2nd? You look south, there's 2 homes. They're large. So this transition, I'm really having a problem with. I would like, personally, to see lot 3, 6, and 9, or 10, either 9 or 10, be left open so that when you drive in from the freeway and you look at what's there and you get further into town, it's not a great shock of difference between what you're seeing on this property and what you see as you get into town. To me, that's what the general plan wanted. That's what the entryway means, is to have a better transition from residential, or commercial rather, to residential. This, the way I look at it, is not a transition, a good transition. It's just a solid mass of wood and stucco. It could be a 2-story shopping center, commercial building, and to me have the same psychological impact as I drove in from the freeway into town. So the debate on the architecture is one thing. We can change, do whatever you want, but I have a problem with the density in that it, as proposed, it has nothing to do with what Montgomery is today, from 6th going east to downtown. And I think this is really not a transition. This is just an extension of, basically extension of commercial, although it's residential, but I don't know how to explain it. It's just not something that I feel comfortable with at the density that's being proposed. And I think you can get an idea of where I'm coming from when it comes to vote. I really have a problem with this as a transition from that aspect of transition, but also as a statement of what Orville is as you get off the freeway and pass going east and you pass Feather River Boulevard, what are we going to see? What do we want to see from there into town? Then the next aspect I have is, if you know, there's, was it 2 or 3 very similar former motels. This used to be the old highway through town, back before they built the freeway. That's why you see all the motels on Feather River Boulevard. It was the highway. And there are very similar former motels. I think there's 2 or 3 across the street and just down the street on Montgomery. And so I look at, okay, we approved this. Do I really want someone to come in and say, well, I'm going to buy and destroy or tear down this one and build something like was built here? I just don't want to see that happen. To me, that is not what the general plan had in mind. And I think that's all. That's my comments. Any other commissioners have a comment before I close the hearing?
Yeah, can I say something else?
Huh?
Can I say something else? I'll push my thing.
Sure, okay.
Yes. One thing I wanted to say, and I think it was a question someone asked before, what happens, the veterans who originally will be owning it in 5 years, that's all the length that they have to stay. And then after that, veterans are the first choice, but not necessarily guaranteed that this is going to stay for 25 years, what we all are thinking it will be. 20, forever, because we're supposed to be looking 25 years out into the future. I don't believe there's a guarantee that this will stay at that level of a veteran's housing, just basically from what I've looked at other low-income housing situations. So that's a fear that I have. Also, back to Montgomery, the entrance to our Feather River area, that's an entrance. That's making a statement. That is enticing you to go further. And then oh, wow, I've got disc golfing, I've got this, I've got that. It's really fulfilling the mission. I know this is a horrifying place where you're talking about. I get gas there all the time, and I watch drug deals go down, and I'm shocked. It's appalling. I want to see us really aim high and just stick with the plan. Look for something better. I really believe people are coming into the downtown district, and they will support it. So that's why I'm opposed to this development on this lot.
Seth?
Yes, thank you. I've been listening to the conversation. There's a couple of components in our zoning code to clarify that have not been mentioned in the staff report. One is that the townhome style configuration is an allowed use. It's spelled out in the downtown historic overlay along with cottage styles and all kinds of other styles. So it is an allowed use in the downtown historic overlay. The downtown historic overlay encourages diverse architectural styles reflecting various phases of the city's history and encourages contemporary buildings to have complementary design and construction. Part of the reason that staff started working with the DC is because of the statewide housing shortage. So we're developing as many houses as we can. Also, in the staff report, not yet mentioned, is the fact that an HOA will be formed as part of this in order to have an assessment of the property owners in order to maintain the property and the common property. The commission seems to be interested in seeing a different facade design, very much of a different look, if in fact this commission decides to approve the project. And I would like to inquire of the applicant as to whether your timing allows you to come back to the Planning Commission in a month with changes.
Sure. I'd rather not, but we could work with staff. If we get planning commission approved and move forward, obviously we have to get building permit that's staff approved anyways. So I'd rather make it through planning commission and then we work through with staff on what the actual facade looks like. That's my preference.
Okay, so we're now at the pleasure of the commission.
As I see it, there's three options that the commission has. We can make a motion to deny, we can make a motion to approve with changes maybe, or make a motion to refer it back to the staff for various changes as been discussed, and then return to the planning commission for final approval. That's where I see our options are. Is there any further discussion from members of the commission?
I have a question.
Huh?
I have a question.
Okay.
What would you like to see on that site as opposed to this?
Yeah.
What's a good improvement for that site?
I think this is a good improvement, not at the density that's proposed.
Okay.
That's what I
not commercial or
no.
You don't see a strip mall there.
No.
Okay. So the residence is fine. It's just the density and the architecture is the issue.
To me, this density speaks commercial, not residential.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
All right.
Any other comments before I close the hearing? I close the public hearing. Any discussion anyone wants to bring up before we hear a motion, or ready for a motion?
I'd like to say one more time, I did look at that Windsor paper again. The porches, the decorative trim around it. I like the idea, but I really like the idea of it looking more separate and more dressed up a little bit on the outside, like those other units. Those actually look, well, they are separate homes in that case.
Yeah,
correct.
But
that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it's a better.
Those look really.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to table it for another meeting. Let them go back and try to.
Yeah,
try to give it one more shot at a better design. Maybe, I don't know, if they could lose a unit, spread it out a little bit more to give you that more individual feel. The more, not quite the zero lot line, but maybe a little more space between the units. If it's even possible and if that even works with the site.
They're cost efficient.
Dawn, you have something?
I made a quick mock-up, if I could pass this around to the commissioners, and added a little more filigree, turned columns at the entrances. So I would just like to pass this around just for, yeah, I marked it up for the commissioners.
Hey, Dawn, is this predicated on 12 units? I mean, I kind of like what Carl said, is if you got rid of 3 units, would that be a problem with the whole housing? I mean, if you did that, you could make this unit 24, this unit 23. You see what I'm saying? I mean, does that mess with the grant for the veteran housing? I don't know what the proposal is for the monies that are initiated for it. Do they have to be 12 units?
I'll let the applicant speak to that, but I would think that it would mess with how this project pencils out at the end of the day.
Well, that's a constructability question and economies of scale. I think the bigger issue is the city owns this land, and I believe that having the 12 units had something to do with your housing plan, and that's why we're trying to get 12 units on here. Like Wes may know the answer to that question better than I do. I can drop units, but we'd have to look at how it pencils. But I think there's a bigger issue with how your housing plan takes this into consideration, since it is city land.
I'm not personally aware of any discussions along those lines. There's probably occurred with Amy, our housing manager,
Right.
prior to
Right.
me getting involved. We can go back and ask.
Well, to me, if it were 3 units, then 2 units, then 3 units, then 2 units, or something along those lines, so that it opens it up. You probably only have to remove or delete at least maybe 2 of the units as proposed. But that's kind of where I have great difficulty. It's not a good transition for what you see if you were driving west on Montgomery. And that's really the issue, too. You're driving west on Montgomery towards the freeway, and you've got the residential of a certain style, and then suddenly you've got commercial, which is what this is, to me, instead of a transition of the single-family, large home environment that you see. So that's my additional 2 cents.
I have one question. When you get off the freeway at Montgomery, there's a sign that says, it's a blue sign, tourist information. Where does that lead you? Chamber of Commerce. Okay, that's my vision for this lot. I do not like the Chamber of Commerce building as it is now in town. It obviously doesn't fit there. I would dream that we could have a beautiful brand new Chamber of Commerce with the Downtown Business Association, Visitor Center, open space, maybe one little type of retail establishment there. Just something that really looks like when you get off the freeway, you're like, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to get some brochures and maybe some real estate flyers. And that is my vision for it.
The chamber is already looking into a different location.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I think I heard that, which is great.
Which they kind of already picked it.
Okay.
Well, and I'd like to say, too, we're looking at a flat, and then because the building pictures are on a side, we're not seeing the separation. Whereas in, like, here, they are separated. It's just the way we're looking at it, when we look at this picture, all we see is this big, long building. But we have to remember that there are gaps between it. There are already spaces. There's 3, and then he said there was a space. So it's like a house.
I thought it was 0 offset.
There's a 5-foot gap in between the pods. So you'd have 3 buildings, 5-foot gap, 3 buildings, 5-foot gap, 3 buildings, 5-foot gap, and then the last one.
It's not as big as what you're talking about, as maybe doing 2 or 3 and then a larger area. But when I look at this picture, all I do see is apartment, one solid shot. But that's not the way it really is.
I saw this. I know what this is saying. What to me it's not saying is what you see down Montgomery. And that's what the general plan concept was, is to extend what you see on Montgomery west into the transition area that we're talking about.
But doesn't it also, what Wes was saying in the description, that they wanted not just what there is, but what could be, and more, what was it, modern, or the word, I don't remember.
Complementary styles. And I don't think he's talking so much about the styling as the density and just the overall feel. Not styling. Styling can be just what you're saying. It isn't like everything has to match. I mean, it has to be complementary.
Right.
I'll leave it to you guys to talk about the architectural style. I don't have a problem. You're talking about a debate that's non-ending.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So whatever the commissioner or staff or whatever works on the architectural style, that's fine. What I'm talking about is the land use concept that you see on Montgomery as you're going west towards the freeway and hit the transition of the commercial. Do we want a sudden change of this, or do we want to try to bring what you see on Montgomery further towards Fair Oaks Boulevard? and the freeway. So when you're going the opposite way, it's not a shock. You go the commercial at the corner, you go this with less density, and then you go into the rest of Montgomery all the way down to the city hall, and it's not, whoa, what happened? That's where I'm coming from, and that's where I'm staying. I simply, as a developer, when I developed and many projects, would not have done this, but that's a debate amongst developers that's been going on for eons.
Can I just make a motion to table this and let them try again?
I think I laid out the three options. We can make a motion to continue this and refer it back to staff. We can make a motion to approve or make a motion to deny.
May I, as staff, make a request for clarification to staff? Perhaps two votes might be in order. The first as to whether or not the project as a concept might be approved or with existing or less density. And then secondly, what to do about the architecture.
Mr. Chairperson, you do have someone in the speaker queue as well.
I think you have to use this thing.
No, hold on. Here, I can get you.
There
Okay.
you go.
Okay, so if this item is tabled, I know the city probably owns other lots in town, and I know that would cost maybe some more money, but are there any other lots or locations in town that the community and the commissioners would be more open to and more appealing to the demographics and the aesthetics?
For this project.
Yeah, for this project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city is
I
currently
completely
working
would.
on. Oh, I apologize.
Completely would.
Yeah.
Just anywhere but this primary gateway to downtown.
Currently is working with veterans housing project behind the corporation yard off of Mitchell Avenue. So there is another veterans housing project going in that's more of a multifamily project. I believe it's 3-story. But this project, I understand what this body is saying, but we also need rooftops, and we also need housing for our veterans. So my request is to really encourage this body to allow the applicant to come back to this body with an updated design that would be more conducive and fitting within this area, if that would be the will.
Well, I think I would prefer a motion if we're going to actually continue it to a specific date, so it doesn't have to be renoticed or whatever. Puts a lot less work on staff. So if we can figure out what date or what, I don't know what the meeting dates are, but if we can continue it for a month to whatever a month is in terms of the next meeting date, if I'm making myself clear, that's what I would see as a motion. One of the three motions would be something along those lines.
That date would be February 25th.
Then the question is February 25th sufficient time to make the discussion between the applicant and staff be worthwhile to bring back to the Planning Commission? Is that enough time?
It's okay with staff. Is it okay with the applicant?
Yes, we can make it work.
Okay, what was the date?
I would say, Wes, the difficulty would be redoing the tentative map, because we're not getting enough direction here to do a change and produce a new tentative map that probably could come in at the same time.
That's a good point. The tentative map would take longer to draw up and to review.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's go 2 months. Would 2 months work?
Okay, a month would work even with the tentative map. I think the applicant's talking about a tentative map that's pretty much in final stage. If we
So our tentative map is for this 12 lots. If we go through and do what you're suggesting and start dropping lots, we're not going to get to that decision probably for a couple weeks. And then we're going to have to redo the whole map to go from 12 units to whatever we end up with, or 12 lots to whatever we end up with. I think what Don's saying is there might not be enough time to perfect that map in order to get it into the package that goes to the Planning Commission, so we can get the map and the architecture, the design all approved at the same time.
I know. I've been in this exact position before.
We just committed this to a month, though, so I didn't know if you understood that whole process.
What I'm saying is, when it comes back to the Planning Commission, if you have it's like a preliminary map laid out of what it's going to look like when you finally get to the City Council, because this has got to go to the City Council. So you've got all that time to do the final map that's going to be approved between the action of the Planning Commission and the hearing at the City Council, which is at least another month or longer. So what I'm saying is, whatever you come back map-wise.
Yeah, you'd be good approving a tentative subdivision map that's not complete to move us on to City Council.
No, we would be approving a very tentative map design that would include a recommendation. It would include a recommendation to staff to work out the final details before it gets to City Council, rather than have to do the final details before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission doesn't need that. What the Planning Commission needs to have in front of them, in my view, is the layout of the lots, pretty much what it's going to look like, not in final form engineering-wise, but in design, what it's going to be. And that's only necessary if you come back with a project that has fewer units in it. So, to me, I've done this. I mean, I've been in, I don't even know how many times, and I know it can be done. And it's a matter of working closely with staff and getting staff input. And when you come back to the Planning Commission, you have a very preliminary layout of what the lots are going to look like. And then the Planning Commission recommends approval of that to the City Council. You turn right around and do a final map back to staff, ready to go actually to the City Council, and away you go.
Carl is correct. In the case of a plan development overlay, the council has to approve the map, not the Planning Commission.
Yes.
As long as Planning Commission's fine with a tentative subdivision map, I'm good.
I think we are.
It sounds like we need to do two votes, because one more for the how many buildings on these lots, or how many lots are there, and then one for the design of it, what it looks like on the outside. Because I'm more for one than the other.
Well,
I don't want to say yes or no, because if you're split, then
no.
You're sending us back anyway, so we would still come forward with the two actions. One would be the PUD, and the second would be the tentative map. And the PUD would be where all the architecture and all
the applicant come back to us with two alternatives. One with a couple of fewer lots, reduce the density, and architectural changes, or the same density as originally proposed with architectural changes, and let them come back and give us a chance to say, yeah, this is better, or it's not any better, and let's go back to the full deal, and because the architectural looks good. I can see that discussion. That's the discussion I like to see happen.
Okay. I'm with you.
The motion, I would think, would be, I'm not sure, no. What did I just say?
To continue this discussion until the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting.
I so moved.
Okay, so we're ready for a motion.
Can I ask one more question of Dawn? You mentioned Is this really the only lot that is available? Are we that limited? And I guess, because my second question is, they've penciled this out and designed this all in a way that works for them, and they're very good at developing these. They've done a lot of them, and they're very successful at it. And so now we're going to put them in such a, a pickle. You have to fit into this, that it's going to maybe not be worth it for them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering,
we'll make it work.
Okay, on this lot.
We're a veteran, so you guys understand. We're not a real estate development firm. We are a veteran service provider. So our mission in life is to serve veterans, and it just so happens we build housing for them. We also build drug and alcohol treatment centers for veterans. So it's veteran centric. So if you tell us we only need 3 units on here, we would make it work some way.
Okay. I just feel like there's other
lots.
lots.
It will go forward. We'll make it work.
Okay.
If there's other lots. Okay.
We do have one lot that we're purchasing, but it is basically a parking lot at this point. It's adjacent to or at the back of the Orville Inn. And it's one we're currently in the progress of basically purchasing it from ourselves. The RDA had owned it. We're purchasing it back from the RDA because it's a Brownfields lot. And so we have to remove or fill in tanks, and it will be turned into an official parking lot. Mm-hmm. So that's really at this point what we have. Many of the lots that we own have been sold off. So
this lot is one of many that were residual redevelopment lots, as when redevelopment disbanded, and the successor agency allowed the city to own a select number of lots, which the city has been using to promote economic development and housing development and other kinds of civic goals. I'm skeptical as to whether there are any other lots that would be able to be developed with a housing development like this. Mm-hmm. And we are working with veterans on several single-family projects, and as Don mentioned, another apartment complex elsewhere.
Who is demanding that we have this much low-income housing? I mean, where is that coming from?
The market.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not like a governmental overlay that is saying you have to have.
The state does require the city to evaluate the amount of housing that is set aside for low-income, moderate-income people. They say a certain percentage. I think we've met that percentage.
We've met it. That's our regional housing needs numbers, and those are determined annually. Or RENA numbers. And with the apartment complexes that are being proposed, or actually we're beginning to receive building permits for them or applications for them, we will be reaching our low-income RENA numbers and very low-income RENA numbers, or regional housing needs numbers. And so from then on, we can begin building median income and moderate income housing and market rate.
So we are close to meeting it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can start building the nicer homes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But veterans housing is a need in itself.
Well, it could be
nicer. Do I have to push this button to talk again?
You're on.
Talk on, Carl.
Jeez. If the eventual feeling of the commission is to have all the lots, I would come down, okay, then at least make the individual lots or homes look individual. So that when you drive by it into town, you don't get the feeling of a mass. You get the feeling of, how many lots are we talking about? 12?
It's a lot for that little
Talking about 12 houses that are distinctly different. They may be attached, that's fine. But architecturally, if you make the units, each unit substantially different, and that would go a long ways to my concerns.
Carl, can I interrupt here for a second? Being in the building industry, one way to achieve that is to change the pitch of the roof on, say, a middle unit and raise the hill the heel of the truss to get it up and to make it look individual, and to change maybe from a shed roof to a hip. I mean, there's several ways to do that.
I know it can be done. I'm just saying that if it were done in such a fashion that each unit had a distinctive look, so that as you're driving into town, you see 12 basically distinct, separate, but attached units, and you get further into town and see all the rest of the town individual homes. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is a better transition, and something I might be able to go for, depending on what it looks like. So I'm still waiting for a motion.
I make a motion to table this for...
Wait. Oh. Okay. I gotta... before you make a motion...
Mike, if you would use the word continue. That means we don't have to go out for public notice again.
Exactly. So what we want to do, in your motion, what we want to do is continue this to a specific date. And I refer back to staff what the date is.
February 25th at 6 o'clock.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this to February 26th. 5th till 6 o'clock p.m.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. I'm going to take a vote. Oh, I thought I pushed it. I did. Oh, okay. Okay, we have a vote. Any changes?
Is with 7 yeses and 0 nos.
All right. Thank you. Thank the people that
we'll see you in a month.
And this has been really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't have any other agenda items. Next is reports, discussions. So director's report. Do we have a director's report?
Thank you, commissioners. Several items just to mention. We do have lots and lots of projects in the works right now, including this one. The next Development Review Committee meeting will be on Thursday, February 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Several projects are in the pipeline. The Maverick sign program has been submitted and is now under review. That will go to the DRC in February per the sign code ordinance. We have 2 oversized garages on residential lots that will also go to the DRC. We have a use permit modification for the Coyote Grill, which everyone here knows as the Exchange Restaurant, which has been sold and is now under expansion.
One question, Wes. Was the Coyote Grill, was that the same owner that was on Bird Street?
Is it grill or cantina?
I think Cantina.
Cantina.
Coyote Cantina.
He had a permit on Bird Street between
Last name is Gaddy. I don't know.
Yeah.
The owner is Gaddy.
Okay, yeah. All right,
On the
thank
Copa?
And that will be coming to the Planning Commission. We're still waiting for a use permit submittal from Dutch Brothers for their second location at the site of the former Hidalgo's restaurant on Oro Dam Boulevard. The Western Motor Lodge, now called McGuire Street Suites, is still actively engaged in code compliance, so the use permit remains open and pending for that to an unknown future date. Several zoning code updates are planned to bring our codes into compliance with state law and to strengthen our ability to require safer, better, nicer looking building and design and construction, and that includes accessory dwelling units, massage codes, manufactured home, updating the codes for that, and small lot development, what the setbacks might be and whether to require covered parking on a smaller lot. The Ron Harmon mine, the city's only mine, is seeking a 5-year extension, and we're waiting to get an updated reclamation plan from them. So that'll come before you. And lastly, the updated sign ordinance is now law. The city council approved it on January 19th. So congratulations to all of your work. They approved it without change.
Have to get through the second reading.
Oh, we haven't done the second reading
No, we
yet?
have not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The second reading is on February 16th.
Come on,
so I
Dawn.
apologize. I know.
You know
Sorry.
how long
I'm
this is?
sorry to be a buzzkill.
Question, the Western Lodge, okay, open permit. Didn't Bunny's Motel have an open permit for the house that they had on that property, which was a problem forever? Do you remember that? You don't remember that, do you?
I don't.
Because code enforcement couldn't go in there because there was an open permit? Is that true or not true? I'm.
That doesn't ring a bell. No.
You don't remember Bunnies when?
I remember bunnies. It's still there.
No, I know that, but they had a big issue because the house that was on that property had a open permit. I believe so, and they couldn't really reinforce the law because of the permit, and there was something to that effect. I remember that down at the cleaners because we were trying to.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think that is an issue, and I'm surprised that might have been because they're a code compliance, health and safety, fire life, health and safety issues are health and safety issues regardless.
Okay.
So, and need to be addressed at some locations.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn.
Did you have any more to add, Don?
The only item I had to add is that we do have a developer interested in the Gateway project. Lots of, I feel like this is the song we've sung for years and years, but this one seems to be promising, and so we're hoping to get a little traction and see some action down there. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, they're on hold, but basically.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't refinished the surface yet.
Right.
And it's falling apart.
Okay. I can speak to our city engineer about that, and we can address that with the contractor. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It'll-
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
well.
here's our engineer.
So anyway, it needs to be done.
I missed the question.
I didn't have my mic on. Who am I talking about? The engineer. Go and drive down Table Mountain Boulevard, going south from Grand to the roundabout. The temporary paving, if you can call it that, is falling apart, and there's chuck holes that I'm sure probably damaged my alignment in my vehicle. What concerns me, though, beyond that, somebody hits that chuck hole at night, not aware of it, and lose control and go left into the oncoming traffic and have a head-on collision.
Are we talking about between Grand and the river?
Between Grand and the roundabout, yes. Going down the hill.
We don't have any active construction between Grand and the roundabout. It might be an encroachment permit.
Huh?
I'll take a look at.
Yeah, I live on Grand.
Is it Grand to Nelson?
Huh?
No.
Grand down to Montgomery.
The sewer line replacement project.
I think they just replaced or installed I assume, the sewer for the apartment complex. And their temporary, I guess it's temporary, repaving has fallen apart and has become dangerous. And
I think I'm really confused about where you're talking about. Could you send me an email and we'll certainly jump on that right away?
Matt, I'll get the exact location from Chairperson Durling, and I will get you that information.
Roger.
Thanks for coming on board. Appreciate that. Got to remember to turn my mic on.
That's on.
From planning commissioners, DRC members, any comments from meetings?
There was a few of us that showed up yesterday at our ethics and whatever training.
Harassment training.
Sexual harassment. Sorry for those of you who did not make it, but
I was sicker than a dog.
well, I'm glad that you didn't come then.
And not only that, but I carried over to a good part of today. I was almost not going to come to the meeting tonight.
We actually had a really good speaker. Good speaker. Lots of discussion.
I'm going to have to do it online.
Yeah, I heard it's not as good.
I've been there, done it, and I know it.
Yeah.
But
I wish they would all work the same. 'Cause
I
keep doing it
guarantee
for
you
different
did not
committees.
want me at that meeting.
No, I'm glad we didn't.
You would have probably picked me up and thrown me out.
If someone didn't make it to the training and also hasn't already told me that they're going to do it online, please let me know so that I can make sure our HR person sends you the. And so you should have received it already if you are doing it online.
As far as I know, I haven't gotten the email, but I've been so sick today, I haven't even got on my email. I don't know what I've gotten yet. So I'll check and get back to you.
Perfect.
Okay. Adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is February 25th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you.